create this, we are going to use a Raspberry Pi. This is a 3B that I happen to have lying around, an ESP32, some addressable LED pixel strip. This is SK6812, and a ridiculous little mini keyboard to plug into my Pi that I have acquired from a certain AliExpress type shop. And okay, so I've pre-installed the PiOS latest version onto this micro SD card, into my sexy little metal case that I was kindly bought for Christmas. Let's plug this in and we will see if we can get the necessary software onto the Pi. So for clarity, there are some other components which I've completely failed to bring into the initial picture. We're going to use an HDMI splitter coming from the source into my television, then coupled with a USB frame grabber that will plug into the Pi. That will grab the frames from the TV, infer what the light should look like. It will then transmit a signal either over serial or over SPI to the ESP32, running some software called WLED that someone has very kindly written in the public domain. God bless open source. That will then have the SK6812 connected to it. This is chosen because it's RGBW, and so it has a better color profile than things like the WS2811, 2812. Each pixel obviously individually addressable. Not worked with this particular strip before, so we'll see how we get on with that. But I suspect that's going to be several videos away because it doesn't look like the easiest setup. But what would be the fun if it was easy? Okay, so now we'll connect up the Pi. We're going to boot it up and go through the doubtless initial configuration, and there's going to be a whole load of Linuxy related stuff to install the app repository for the necessary necessary add-ons, and I might not bore you with all of that, so we'll come back. Little shout out though to these silly little keyboards, because this is the second one that I bought. The first one, weirdly, I bought in the Canary Islands on holiday from a shop called Ambilight. If you've been to Spain, you'll know what I'm talking about. But this one actually came from AliExpress with the sad degradation that it didn't come with a rechargeable battery like the other one, but they're great. Actually got a dongle that fits in, so it's not trying to do Bluetooth or something. It's got a little touchpad, mouse buttons, connect to Windows, and all other types of things that I've attached it to. And as you can see, there we go. We're off and we're wiggling and whatever. So shout out to the £3 cheeky little connection. Apparently I've got low voltage. Always seems to tell me this regardless of what power supply I use. So anyway, we've got it up on the Wi-Fi, and we shall continue on SSH, so I don't have to use the delightful but also ridiculously small keyboard for two. So obviously the most important thing with any install before we start doing anything else is we'll make sure it's up to date. So do a cheeky little apt upgrade, and we'll run all the necessary packages required onto that, do an apt update, and then make sure that we have everything up to date in the core system before we start putting any accessories on top. Okay, so after much less time than I thought, I've actually got the HyperHDR software installed. It was just as easy as getting a repo, downloading it, installing it, and then hitting a web page. So far so good. Now I've got to try and configure a D-strip. I have found the missing components from earlier, so now we have the video capture attached. Pi still running, still moaning about having low power to it, but charging an iPad at the same time probably not helpful. I'll let you know. It's fair to say I have no idea what I'm doing here, but we're attempting to compile the firmware for the correct ESP32 board. I was going to try and use a Raspberry Pi Pico that I have, but it appears to have committed suicide, so this is what we've got. I feel like I'm in the Matrix, to be honest with you. Refer to my previous comments about me not being a coder, already on the dark side with my VS Code window open. Hopefully in a minute this will yield something usable. I guess we'll find out. As if by magic we're actually compiling something. which I'm quite shocked by, to be honest, because I'm not very good at this stuff. But as you can see, my firmware bins are building, and the files with the containing information are slowly shrinking and getting built into the firmware. How about that? So, final thing for tonight, because it's getting pretty late, but we've managed to get the LED device on there. So you'll see that the ESP is connected as a USB serial device, and that the LED device detected 50 frames a second, and the USB grabber was detected. And if we look down here, you can see that we have the ESP now plugged into the RPi as a USB device, and hopefully, after a little bit of fucking about with the ESP home console, I actually built my own firmware and it works, and it's attached. Check me. Okay, so quick update on my LED Ambilight. I've now got the capture into HyperHDR working, so Fire Stick dutifully plugged in, and you can see that it's streaming quite nicely into there. Set the colours appropriately so I don't have to take full res in. It is kind of sort of thrashing the shit out of my Raspberry Pi 3B, and it's quite toasty. So we'll see how that gets on in real life, but as you can see, we're getting more green blobs and it's starting to look a little bit more like it should. Meanwhile, I'm working on the necessary components to set up the LEDs, so following this handy guide, which I will link through in my blog. But effectively, we need to get power supply. These are 5-volt LEDs, 3.3 volt logic from the output of the ESP32, so we need to put a level shifter in to upshift the logic levels. I have these snappily titled Bojacks that were about 20 for a couple of quid on Amazon, that are the correct model, and a few other components that I have been assembling from my trusty box here. So you've got a couple of electrolytic capacitors, 470 microfarad to smooth the power, and then we've got a ceramic capacitor that needs to go across the lines from the ESP32. That's 100 nanofarad, and a resistor going in the data line to stop reflection, which is something I've suffered with quite a lot with LEDs. So I've gone for a slightly higher value. They're saying 33 ohm. I've gone for like 100 ohm to prevent the reflection coming back. And then just for safety, we've got a couple of thermal cutouts, which I'm going to use instead of fuses because I think they're a bit more modern. So we've got a 10 amp and a 5 amp one that we're going to apply, because we're going to run more than one power wire to the LEDs, because after a while they're going to draw a fair amount of juice, and we don't want any melting of wires. So probably going to need some fairly hefty wire as well. I've got these rolls of 16 gauge, which I think will just about do it. Probably a bit too chunky to solder onto the LEDs, but we'll find out. And then here's a little prototyping board, so we're going to solder up the ESP32 onto here along with the level shifter and the power circuitry. I'll come up with a way to get some screw terminals or something on here to connect the power to the LEDs with, and then we'll give it a go and see what happens. So just going to do a little bit more soldering up of the pins on the ESP32. So we're going to push through the development board. Just going to already tinned up my iron, so we should be good just to crack on with these. I'm just going to do 5 down each side, say, because I know I need 3.3 volt in ground, 5 BCC in and ground, and then the output for the signalling for the LEDs is on GPIO2, I think, which so that should be, bring it up perhaps a little bit more visible. But, so from this end we've got the 3.3 volt ground, and then D2 for the GPIO, and then on this side we've got the input voltage that'll be in and the ground. So you can see I've soldered those all up. Reasonably happy with the soldering effort. I'm not going to cut any of the pins yet. I've soldered the other end down just to give it a nice firm fixture. Normally I go down and do all of them, but I don't really see the need for this, so we'll leave it like that for now. Now I'm going to put the other components on, the capacitors and the resistors, some kind of connector for the input power and the output signaling, and away we go. Okay, now I'm going to just put the level shifter in. Let's just give it a little bit of a quick clean. Re-tin the tip tinner, which is kind of a flux with a bit of a solder powder in it, so it automatically tins the tip. I'm not putting it in the helping hands, I'm just going to use gravity just to try and hold it in. Perhaps this on the try. So if we've got the little indicator to show which way around the IC needs to go, I'm going to put that in that way up, like so, and we'll try again. I'm just going to use the edge of the helping hands base, but maybe we'll just pop something under the other side so it doesn't keep flipping down. We've only got to get one leg in and soldered, and then we're pretty much okay. So let's just do that. So we've got the pin next door. Not the pin I actually want. There we go. And then hopefully that should now be reasonably solidly fixed, and then it's quite a lot of excess solder there, but that's okay. As you can see, I'll bring it back into view because I probably took that out, and a little bit of excess solder which we'll just clean up in a minute with some wick, but for now let's just get connected again into my helping hands, and hopefully proving how good I am at video content. We'll just get back into view. Hopefully I can non-shaky enough hands just to go down these relatively quickly. Been a while, but I used to be quite good at this when I was younger. Here's one side. I found there's that wonderful middle-aged combination of both long and short-sightedness. So I've got my brains glasses on, which maybe I'll show you if I feel brave enough to put myself on video at some point. But for now, you can have my slightly shaky hands. Hopefully this will edit down into something usable. Okay, so should now have. Oh, missed one. How did I manage that? There you go. That's proving why. Check and check again with everything. So I've managed to completely miss. Well, not completely miss, but missed to properly solder that pin there. There we go. So actually, the second one on that other side is not brilliant either. So we'll just make them good with a slightly bigger solder so that we're comfortable they've gone all the way through. And yeah, that looks reasonable. Now, so that's all 16 legs of the IC put in, and away we go. Okay, so we made some progress, and now we've got the level shifter installed. I'll put the two electrolytic capacitors across the supply and feed lines for the 3.3 and 5 volt rails. I'm just putting the ceramic capacitor in. I've soldered it in, and I'm just attaching it across the legs of the level shifter here. One of the challenges with these prototyping boards I always find is that making the connections and making them cleanly, because the tracks aren't joined, so you have to kind of make that work for yourself. My preferred way with some of these is pushing the legs of the components through, as you can probably see here, folding them over with a pair of tweezers, and then soldering them onto the adjacent component where you can, and then snipping off the excess, which is exactly what I'm doing here, and what I've done with the electrolytics. You can see on the tracks here I've bring them into view, that I've actually bridged them across to the legs of the ESP32 and then just soldered them on. This works on a small scale, as long as you make sure that you don't touch the next leg, then you're away. So we're going to do that. I've got the resistors to do and some sockets, and then hopefully we're ready to move on to putting the LEDs together. Okay, so as you can see, things are kind of developing. I'm now in the process of just connecting up the last few joins underneath. So this is the negative ground wire that's running between the level shifter and the ESP module and the power in, negative power in. So I've soldered a couple of sockets on, as you can see. So this one down here, that's the signalling out socket that comes from this resistor to power the signal the LED strips. And this one is the power in, so the plus 5 volt in and ground, which is what I'm currently attaching up to the level shifter here. Yeah, it's going okay. Bit of a tight squeeze in some places, having to do some interesting routing of the wires underneath. It's not going to win any beauty contests, but it is going to work, hopefully. Well, here we are, after lots of swearing. It basically works. So as you can see, we've got an image here, which is a bit of a weird colour, but it is processing and video capturing. And as hopefully you can see, the LED colours do kind of match up with what's going on. So and they are dynamic and they are moving, so it is definitely working. Just a bit of tweaking required, but overall, so far so good. Turns out the IC that I was trying to use as the level shifter was completely the wrong one. So we're winging it a little bit here with a 3.3 volt signal onto a 5 volt LED strip. But I've only set a small number of LEDs and the wire is like 20 centimeters long, so away we go. It does appear to be working. We'll have to refine it. I've got a better power supply and things arriving from the rainforest shop imminently, and hopefully soon I'll have it behind the TV. That's fine. Okay, so after some successful-ish prototyping, got something on that and the beer, and we're going to try and do the real thing. So I've got a selection of LED strips cut to size for the right dimensions for my TV. I'm just going to solder on the cables to connect them to the power supply. I purchased a kind of closed frame switch mode power supply, which has suitable amperage to power that amount of LEDs, and we'll hide that hopefully up behind the TV somewhere too. Yeah, I'm going to connect them all up and then I'll give you another little video once we're ready to. Okay, so I've now basically built up my little LED strip connections. So we've got the signalling going to the ESP32, and then I've put some Molex mini fits onto the end of the strip to connect to the power supply, and you can see then we've interconnected them here, and I've heat shrinked over the top of each of them. Terrible camera work there, but you get the idea. So they're effectively connected all the way around in a frame that will fit around the back of the TV. There's only one functional problem at the moment, which is the level shifter is definitely a requirement. I'll plug them in a second. Okay, so as you can see, I have powered them up, and we've got it powered at both ends. So 5 volt and ground doing it at both ends of the strip, signalling in, obviously going in in one direction. Little 10 amp thermal breaker there, because I prefer those to fuses, and they're a bit more replaceable. But as you can see, we've got kind of a bit of a flickering state of whatever, and in fact the last however many from here are lacking signalling, and it doesn't really seem to matter what the screen displays. It's not showing any sign of being anything like it. So in a final triumphant moment, I think it's actually bloody working. Finally, an air of intolerable smugness remains. So as you can see, we are in very much evaluation mode with quite a lot of wires and things hanging around, but hopefully no copyright issues, but it only bloody well works. And as we change colour, it changes colour with it. I'm pretty impressed all in all. So yeah, needs a bit of tweaking, but generally speaking,